welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today we're going to be creating 3 cards with inky backgrounds, and to decorate them we'll be using these kind of abstract flower stamps from Polka Doodles. So this one's the Funky Posy, this one's the Funky Friend, and this one's the Funky Hello. So when I'm creating inky cards, my favourite inks to use are the Distress Oxide inks. So they're a really kind of like creamy ink, and they sit kind of on top of the paper, so they create quite an opaque look. The only downside to them is when you stamp over the top, it kind of takes the crispness out of your stamps because it's quite an opaque ink. So for my first card, I'm going to do a square card, and I've got a white 5x5 inch card base, and this black piece is 4 3/4 inches. So I've got this 4-inch piece of white cardstock to layer over the top, and I'm actually just going to add on the inks in patches for this one. So it's a really simple technique. You don't need any kind of like experience to do this at all. So I'm just using my blending brush, and I'm going in circular motions onto the ink and circular motions onto the pad. Now, you don't need too much pressure. If you're starting to get hand ache, you're pressing down too hard. And I'm just putting it in patches. And then I'm going to fill in the gaps with other colours. So that's salvaged patina. And then I'm just going to clean my brush on the paper, because I've actually only got 2 blending brushes that are free today. I've actually got a few blending brushes, but some of them are sat in my bag for a class. I don't dare take them out because I'll forget them for the class. So I'm just going to do this. You can see I've got hardly any ink coming off that now. So I'm going to put that on my yellow. You can see it's not coming off on my yellow, so we're fine. And then I'm going to add in some yellow. And this yellow is the mustard seed. It's a really bright yellow because I wanted this to be kind of a bright, funky card. And then I'm going to take my final one, which is the Kitsch Flamingo, and I'm going to use the other one for this because I think the yellows and the greens are kind of more of a similar colour family, so I don't mind mixing those a little. But the pink's quite different. And then let's go in with some more of the salvaged patina over here. And you can see here that I forgot to take the yellow off here before I put it on there. So I'm just going to do this to get that yellow off here. And the yellow is a really strong yellow, so it does kind of like really stick to the brushes a bit. I think that's starting to come off now. So now I can go back in. And you can probably see that it's starting to actually clean up the pad as well. So it's not the end of the world. So you can see I've not done anything special on that, and I'm going to use this Friend stamp set for this. So I'm going to use these and my Ultinu jet black ink to just stamp all over that background. And then I'm going to use some of the butterflies just to fill in the gap. And then I'm just going to add a few little kind of like dots around as well. So there we've got our super colourful full rainbow background. And then I'm going to take some spare paper, and on there I'm going to just stamp Friend, and I'm going to stamp 2 of the leaves and 1 of these flowers. And then I'm going to be colouring in bright colours today, so I've got R22, YG00, BG05, Y38 and G14 Copic Chow markers to colour with. So I'm going to cut those out. So then those are cut out and I can layer up my card. So I'm going to pop this layer up on foam pads. If you've got foam tape, I'd recommend using foam tape instead of pads, but I've not got any to hand just now. Just to get that kind of more continuous line. And then I'm going to lift the flower up on dimensionals. And then to finish off, I'm just going to take some of these Nuvo crystal drops in ripened pumpkin and just add a little bit of dimension to this middle bit here. So we've got a really bright, funky card. So please do excuse my background. I feel like it's a bit wasteful to use a spare piece every time, so I'm going to reuse these background pieces. So this is a 5.5 by 4.25 inch card blank, and I'm going to start with a similar type of idea. I'm going to pop some patches of colour all the way around the background. In fact, actually, this one maybe we'll go with a bit of a kind of almost more stripy look rather than patchy. I'm going with the salvaged patina from the bottom. And then I'll blend that mustard seed through the middle. Then I'm going to go back in with some salvaged patina. And back in with the Kitsch Flamingo along the top. And then I've washed off my brush and I'm just going to splatter the water that's left in it across there. You can see I'm getting quite big splatters because there's quite a lot of water in the brush. And then I can also do this if I want to get some more small splatters as well. So I'm going to set that aside to dry for a few minutes. And then I'm going to use this funky Posy stamp set. I'm just going to stamp and colour some of these pieces. I've given this a little bit of helping hand to dry with my heat tool because actually I've decided I want to start stamping now before I colour too many images. I don't want to spend lots of time cutting and colouring images that I don't need. So I'm going to stamp my pattern onto here. So I'm going to carry on colouring and I know how many of each thing I need now. And all the thin pieces like the stems, I'm not actually going to cut out because that would just be too fiddly. So I'm actually going to colour the stem on here. Now obviously you don't want to do that with everything because you won't see things properly. If for example I coloured this in pink on there, do you see how faded it is? But I think when it's just little things like the slim stems, then you're not going to really notice too much anyway. So I think what I'm going to do is just cut them out as I go and stick them on, and then I can kind of keep a tally of where I'm at. So now that that's cut out, then we can glue it onto here. With these little leaves, I don't want to be cutting those pieces out, so I'm actually just going to colour these ones in. I'm going to leave with that kind of more faded look on those. So now that I've got all of those on, I just need to trim around the edges to finish off the card. And then we've got this really pretty bright card. So then for my final card, I'm going to use Distress ink rather than the Distress Oxide. And this time I'm going to use black soot. So I'm going to go for a bit of more of a grungy feel for this one. And I want this to be a little bit patchy because I want that kind of almost industrial look rather than a flat black. So Then I'm actually just going to flick onto this background just like I did with the last card. Obviously my brush is a bit drier now because it's been drying since I started the last card. The splatters aren't as big, and then I'm going to leave that to one side just to dry out a little bit. I did think I was going to use this stamp set for this one, but I'm actually going to use this friend stamp set again. So I'm going to stamp these on here. So I've stamped the leaf twice and the flower once, so I'm just going to colour those in. Then I'm going to cut these out, so I'm going to leave a little border around them this time. So then I'm going to use my leaves to add a bit more texture to the background. And then I'm also going to take my white Sakura gel pen and just add a few little touches. So then I've used this Celebrate die from this Magical Birthday Boy die set from Echo Park. And I've just cut out 3 Celebrate, so I've got 2 in basic black cardstock from Stampin' Up, and 1 in this cornflower blue that is from Tonic Studios, and you can see it's got a bit of a texture to it. So I'm just going to glue those all together, stack them up. So then I can glue all my pieces on. I'm going to add some dimensionals behind the flower. And then I'm just going to finish off with a few of these Caribbean Ocean drops just in the middle of here. So there's that final card finished. So there's my 3 cards finished. Let me know in the comments below which one's your favourite. I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, I'd appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also send you notifications when I've got a new video available. All of the products that I've used for today's video are listed in the description below, and there's also a link there to my blog where you can find a picture supply list if that makes it easier to find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.